You kind of downplayed it last week, said it was just any other game. Now that it's passed, was it just any other game?
It was just the next game on the schedule, in all honesty. It was hard because I'd mentioned after the game, I know what those guys are going through over there at Pueblo, and we felt the same disappointment the week before. And so, yeah, that I don't know. It was good to get a win. Our players needed to win. They needed to win that way. They needed to see that they could finish. They needed to see the momentum. They needed to feel an accomplishment after everything we've preached and everything they've been through. So that was the most important thing. I mean, I got a lot of friends on that staff, a lot of players I recruited. It was good to see those guys, and they're going to win a lot of games. And I expected them to be in the playoffs, and I expect them to regroup from this. And hopefully we can keep momentum going, and we might see them down the line.
Did you see anything game plan wise from them that surprised you, or were you pretty comfortable with whatever they were going to throw at you?
We pretty much kind of knew what they were going to do. They're just good at what they do. And the wheel route by the tight end, we had practiced that, and Dalen saw it and stopped, just like he did in practice. It was the same thing that we practiced, and he had seen it. And that was something that seemed to be a wrinkle that they didn't show last week. Certainly the halfback pass, we were not expecting that, but I'm glad it was a little underthrown for us to get it. And I think that kind of sparked us a little bit that, hey, we started almost every drive in the second half in our own territory from a defensive standpoint, and we held them every time. So I think that's hats off to Coach Aver and the defensive staff for getting that done.
How is Justin, and have you made a decision on Saturday yet?
We're evaluating Justin day to day, so probably won't know till Saturday. Excuse me.
Myron, how's Myron?
Myron's day to day as well.
Okay. Were you talk about Ben and take a chance and what he was able to do coming in off the bench?
I think just like we ask everybody has a role, and I think that Ben just proves that you have to prepare like you're the starter because you never know when your time is going to be called. And so you get out there, and he practices that way, and he's accepted his role, and when the opportunity came along, he was able to take advantage of it.
Talk about your defense in the second half. 4 turnovers, held them to 81 yards. I mean, really showed that it was the strength of the team.
If you look at it, take away the 35 yards ahead at the end, it was a lot better than the 81. But like I said, they started on our territory a lot, and deep in our territory, the 30-yard line, and we shut them down. And I think our defense is getting momentum. I think they're still young in the scheme and don't know the scheme as well as I'd like them to, but that comes with experience. And the more games we play, the more experience they're going to get. It's difficult to get the experience in practice because it's not at the game speed. It's just like the very first drive, we got 3rd and 8, and Eric Collins comes off the edge, and he doesn't get the sack. Right? He's got him. He just doesn't get the sack. Same exact scenario later on. We send the same exact blitz, and he gets the ball out and get a fumble, and it's a turnover going that way. So
We asked Kevon, did anything change, schematically to get the turnovers, force turnovers? No, we just did our job.
Yeah.
Did they need to see the turnovers, and have success in that sense to say, hey, just do your job and it'll work?
I think it's like an old biblical sense. Thomas, he doubted and doubted and doubted, and then he saw and felt, the wounds and believed. I think now the guys are seeing what can happen when you do your job, when you are aggressive and you are physical, and that the ball's going to come out and we're going to have opportunities to get it. So I think we're gaining more confidence, going through that second half, and that helped us.
You talk about opening Lone Star Conference play here this weekend, and riding any, you got to win here, but talk about riding that momentum into the Lone Star.
I think that's we got to keep improving it. We watched the film and looked at it, and we still made a lot of mistakes, and we got a lot of things that we've got to get secured up before I feel confident in us making a run for the conference title. And it starts this week, and Permian Basin. If you look at what their schedule, they played a Division I team and got beat on the road. They lost to Sul Ross because of turnovers. Look what happened with us. Turnovers are a big part of the game, and they've been snake bit. They've probably got 9 or 10 turnovers in the first 2 games, and that's what's killing them. So I think our guys, have watched a little bit of film. I told them this morning, I said, we got to worry about competing against ourselves. We got to worry about getting ourselves better. It doesn't matter who the next opponent is. Let's just concentrate, focus on us, and do what we do.
You told me Saturday after the game that now after beating the number 7 team, there's a little bit of a target on ourselves in terms of your team. So what does that change in terms of talking to your players from day to day and saying we can't get too high because, like you said, now we're in the conference?
Well, I try to be honest with them in everything I tell them about where we are, where I think we are, what I think we need to do. And, we can be and say we beat the number 7 team all we want, and we can rest our laurels on that and not win another game, and we can always say that. But that's not who we want to be. You build off every week. And, again, we made mistakes, and we got to build off those mistakes. Now, the momentum we created and the things we've done, yeah, we've got to keep building on that too, but we got to fix the things that need to be fixed before we even can say we're a good team. And Kid just told me that we're receiving votes in the top 25, and somebody just saw us upset a team and thinks that we're pretty good when I don't think we're deserving of that ranking quite yet.
You had 2 guys, LSC players of the week, Dalen and Alex. Talk a little bit about what each one of those guys brings to your team.
I think Dalen, from what he's done, moving from a defensive end and outside linebacker, we put more on his plate. I think he's been excellent. I think he's accepted the role. I think he really likes it. We give him a little freedom to do some things, and he can get outside and rush a lot easier. But he's been, he's just been super in his attitude and what he's done and what he's brought to this team. When we recruited Alex, we told him, you come in here and you got a chance to compete for the kicking job. And, that's why we brought him in here. He missed his very first attempt, and, I'm not a kicking guru or a kicking coach by any means. I just told him, I said, hey, just relax and don't worry about it. You're going to get other opportunities. And when we got that turnover, I just got in headsets and I said, hey, run the clock down and let him kick it and win it. And I got confidence in Alex, and I think our team has confidence in Alex. Alex has got a lot of confidence in himself, which is what a kicker should have. And, that first kick hadn't seen the bottom. So
We saw Junior on offense. What was that decision like to make that move? Well,
we weren't getting the physical play out of the tight end that we needed to run the football. So we put Junior over there, and he's lost some weight and he's gotten back to where he wants to be. And and the other part of it was we played 53 snaps in the first game on defense, and he only had 7. So we got to get a guy like that on the field somewhere, and that's what we're looking to do. So as a tight end, he could help us a lot more than he could as a defensive lineman. Now, when I brought him in and talked to him, I talked to him about what did you learn here, leverage, how to play, because we stuck him in the middle and he had to get hit and he had to stay low. He was not doing that as a tight end. So I think that just moving him over there for the short bit of time helped him become a better football player to understand how he's got to play his leverage and things like that.